So the Chicago Bulls, right? What's going on with the Chicago Bulls? Why do they stink? Why are they some stinky McBinkies? At the time of this recording, they are 9-14, I believe. I'm trying to yes. So they are 9-14. They are currently 12th in the Eastern Conference. They are on a 3-game skid. They've lost 4 of their last 5. And I'm unsure if Billy Donovan is on the hot seat, but I would not be surprised if he were. Now, this is, of course, the same team who 10 months ago, 11 months ago, was the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, like January of 2020,
Bruh.
2022. Holy shit, January of 2020. Oh, God. January of 2022, this was the best team in the Eastern Conference. And we were talking about DeMar DeRozan as an MVP. Like, we are not that far removed from that. And yet here we are, 9-14. This team is in absolute shambles. They're super mid. They're just ugh. They just don't look good at all. And it's not even that like they don't look it like looking good is one thing, but because there are a bunch of teams that don't look good. Like the Magic don't look good. The Pistons don't look good. But they're at least fun to watch. Okay? They have league pass worthy players. I don't know if Chicago at this point is league pass worthy because we're gonna take a gander at this roster. You're getting good production from DeMar DeRozan, 25.5 points a game, not bad, shooting 50% from the field. But then you have Zach LaVine, who is regressing tremendously over the last couple of years. Has seen his scoring. I mean, I have it up for the video purposes, but like from giving you anywhere from like 25 to 27, he's at 22 per game this year. His efficiency has fallen off a cliff. He is down across the board on twos, on threes, from the free throw line. He's simply not having a good year. Nikola Vucevic, I mean, he's all right. I think he's making a case for himself to get traded during the deadline because I don't know if Chicago is interested in blowing it up, but I would not be surprised if that's something they're considering because this experiment is not working out as it stands. And I'll get more to that in a little bit. But Nick Vucevic averaging 16 and 11, shooting 35% from 3, could be someone whom the Brooklyn Nets target this trade deadline. Although I don't know if he is someone who is worthy of the asking price that he's undeniably going to be that the Bulls are undeniably going to be asking for. I mean, he's a walking double double. He is a stretch 5. Like, or he has stretch 5 capabilities. Like he's not a stretch 5 like Miles Turner, but he can play on the perimeter a little bit. He is a sorry ass defender though, and I'm not so sure that that's what Brooklyn's second unit needs. Although, although they could benefit from having someone whom the offense can run through in the second unit because they do not have that person right now. There is no one in the second unit whom the offense can comfortably run through. Ben Simmons is not going to be giving you. He's not going to be your primary scoring option with second unit. Joe Harris largely needs to play off of Ben Simmons, but like Nick Vucevic, you can dump the ball to him in the post and just see how it plays out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But the real issue with the Chicago Bulls is that one, Lonzo Ball is hurt, and two, Patrick Williams is a decent player, but he is not really progressing at the rate that the Bulls had hoped. He's in his 3rd season, and I know that year number 2 was cut short with that wrist injury. He missed pretty much the entire season, only appeared in 17 games, the majority of which came towards the end of the season, but his numbers over these 3 years are identical to one another. He is averaging 9 points 3 years in a row. He's averaged 4 rebounds 3 years in a row. The only large fluctuation has been in his shooting, which, I mean, he's a sniper on the perimeter. That's great. He's got a great touch. But what else is he bringing to this team? It's currently nothing as of right now. And again, this is largely because this team is unhealthy. Lonzo Ball isn't there, and we don't know when he's coming back. But like this team is not whom we thought they were going to be. Just looking at the numbers, they are painfully average on both ends of the ball. 16th in scoring volume, 15th in scoring in points per game allowed. They are 9th in defensive rating, although that's largely not because their defense is good, but because they get a lot of possessions. They generate a lot of possessions, which, I guess has to account for something. They're 25th in offensive rating. And I think the big hang up here is that this offense fucking stinks. This offense does not do anything noteworthy. I was looking around trying to find some interesting stats because, much like every other team in the NBA nowadays, the Chicago Bulls are playing through DeMar and Zach LaVine. They're playing through their best players, which is what your best players are there for. Your best players are there to take 18, 19, 20 shots a game. Yes, they run a lot of isolation. They play a lot of pick and roll. They do get out in transition, which of course is great when you have an athletic lineup like this. But what happens when those opportunities aren't leading to anything? How how effective is your team at manufacturing points? This has been like my new phrase. I guess there's a difference between scoring points and manufacturing them. Any team can score points, and every point is obviously a point scored, but not every point scored is a manufactured point. That's how crisply you run your sets in the half court, how unique your action in the half court is, how you utilize misdirection, how you utilize the ancillary skills of some of your secondary players. And the Bulls just don't do any of this. And I guess it's because they really don't have anyone on the roster who's capable of doing that. Because the offense is effectively give the ball to DeMar, Zach, and Vooch and see what happens. Ayo Dosunmu is the fourth leading scorer at 10 points per game, is not much of a shot creator, is not much of a playmaker. We've already talked about Patrick Williams, not much of a shot creator, not much of a playmaker. They added Goran Dragic this offseason, and he hasn't really brought anything to the offense. I mean, granted, his minutes are kind of limited, but he hasn't made a palpable difference for extended periods of time. There is also Alex Caruso and Kobe White. Kobe White has been a tremendous letdown for this team. That's the facts. I think that is outside of like the one number that I found to be very interesting. Kobe White being unable to dominate the second unit minutes has been a huge hamper for Chicago's offense. He is the go-to guy for the second unit, okay? Oh my fucking God. Okay? He's the go-to guy for the second unit. He's averaging 6.7 shot attempts per game. He's only seeing 18 minutes as well. So I think for a more well-rounded look, I'm going to use per 100 possessions. So even per 100 possessions, he's seeing 17 shots. That is actually less than what Goran Dragic is seeing with the second unit. Even so, his minutes would be better utilized, or his minutes would be more effective for Chicago if he just remembered how to shoot. He's down to 41% from the field this year. He's down to 33% from three. Over his career, albeit is short, or I should say, over his first 3 years with the Bulls, he was shooting 36.5% from three. He was a reliable three-point shooter. He was a reliable guy off the bench. Like, also, his play off the bench was what helped make Chicago so lethal to begin the season last year, or over the course of the season last year. Of course, everybody was playing better, but that's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. Like when everyone is playing well on your team, naturally their levels of production get elevated. It's a rising tide lifts all ships, this, that, whatever. But of course, the elephant in the room is Lonzo Ball not being healthy. That is the one thing that I believe more than anything else. I think I've said that about 3 things already. The one thing that really plays into it is Lonzo Ball not being healthy. Him being absent hurts them in every facet of the game. Hurts them on defense. It hurts them in transition because Lonzo is a big guard. He's an excellent rebounder. He's able to grab rebounds and ignite the break. And they're able to steal a bunch of points in transition that way. And if I remember correctly, they're a pretty decent team in transition. Also, great passer. Phenomenal basketball IQ, phenomenal court vision. Amplifies everybody around him. Helps find easy buckets. for everybody around him. And then, of course, his much improved three-point shooting, like, that is indescribable. You can't have too much shooting in today's NBA. And he worked exceptionally well with DeMar, with Zach, with Vooch, with Alex Caruso, with pretty much everybody. He does everything that the Bulls need from a non-star. And they don't have that this year. And they don't have anyone to replicate his production. Caruso can't do it. Goran Dragic can't do it. Kobe White is incapable of doing it as well. And, there is this one thing that I found to be quite interesting. And I was looking at their passing numbers because, they're an average team, right? The Chicago Bulls are average in basically every facet. They're average in efficiency, they're average in shooting percentage, they're average in assists. That's another one. They're averaging 24 assists a game. And I was like, okay, so, I was thinking about what could be, an easy fix that they could implement. I saw their low assist numbers. I'm like, just move the ball more. Like, just create some more sets. Obviously, idiot, just pass the fucking ball more. But this is interesting because they are the third best team in regards to passes made per game. They're at 311 passes made per game. Yet, they only create 44 potential assists. That is, I think, like bottom 12-ish. Now, for comparison, a team that is just under them is my Brooklyn Nets in regards to potential assists. I think the Nets are at like 44.2 potential assists. And just from watching Brooklyn, they are undeniably an isolation heavy team, a pick and roll heavy team. They don't pass a lot. Like, just theoretically, they don't pass a lot. But these two teams, Chicago and Brooklyn, are creating the same amount of potential assists. Yet Brooklyn is passing, is created, is, God, I just fucked this up so bad. These two teams are neck and neck in potential assists. And yet Brooklyn is 30 passes per game fewer than Chicago, which makes sense because obviously the fewer passes that you're making, the fewer assists that you're going to generate. But Chicago, their elevated passes proves that they're just passing to pass. Like, they're just passing around the perimeter. They're not trying to penetrate. They're not trying to find anyone around the free throw line. There are no driving. Well, I mean, there are driving kicks, but there are driving kicks that don't really lead to anything. And again, I don't think that there is any fix to this team that doesn't come. I don't think there's any fix to this team beyond adding Lonzo Ball. And I feel like that's kind of a cop out. That is actually definitely a cop out. But there's only so much that you can analyze in sports. Okay, there's only so much analysis you can do, like so much schematic analysis, so much X's and O's analysis. A lot of the times, it just comes down to, are these guys healthy? And if they're healthy, are they playing well? That's really it. That's really it. Because it's also hard to get an accurate picture of a team when they aren't operating at full health. And it's also, of course, going to be tougher for them, the Bulls in this instance, it's going to be tougher for them to compete when they built their team a certain way. And one of the key contributors to that is not with the team. So the Bulls are in shambles right now, definitely. It says that, Lonzo is expected to be out for a few months. I think last I saw it was the All-Star break-ish, January, February. I don't know if Chicago can. Actually, I don't want to say that they can because they are only 5 games under 500. I say only 5. It's still relatively early in the season. They still have a tremendous amount of talent between DeMar and Zach. And realistically, they can carry Chicago to a 500 record. And then hopefully the team will be in a better position to look like themselves once Lonzo gets healthy. However, I don't know what Lonzo will look like when he comes back. I don't know how much time he'll need to reacclimate to the situation. And I'm not sure the Chicago Bulls are even, like, in the mood for that because I know how fickle front offices are. I know how, how short-sighted they can be a lot of the time. And truthfully, like this team was only built to capture a this team was built and had a very short window to win a championship. Zach LaVine signed a massive contract year ago, however many years ago it was, and he's on that. But Vucevic is an expiring contract, so Chicago could, he's probably going to be one of the guys who's talked ad nauseum after Christmas between like fucking New Year's Day and Valentine's Day. This guy is probably going to be talked about more than anybody else. DeMar DeRozan only has one more year left on his deal after this one. Lonzo Ball has one more year guaranteed, plus a player option, which he's probably going to accept because it's $21 million. But Kobe White will be a free agent after this year, and then like that's really it. That's the core of the team. So I don't know what Chicago is planning on doing. Uh, Obviously, I'm not an insider, but uh, we have to be very, very precise in how we analyze the situation. I don't think that this was a fault of poor construction. I don't think this was a fault of bad coaching. It's just bad luck. Really, the Chicago Bulls are just an unlucky franchise. And listen, as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I know a thing or two about unlucky franchises. That is what they are. They are simply an unlucky franchise with a game plan that isn't suited to work when their guys aren't present. I'm really starting to fucking run out of steam. But, if you do want to blame the front office, you can say that they should have done better with finding contingency plans, with filling out the depth a little bit more. But all of the signs pointed to this team being competent again this year because they retained most of their guys. They retained like six of their most important players, still with Patrick Williams. They added Goran Dragic, which like Vooch, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo, Caruso, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, and Goran Dragic is 8 guys. That is a solid 8-man rotation. And a solid 8-man rotation will take you very far in the NBA. But again, they simply got unlucky. Of course, like the development of Patrick Williams hasn't been that expeditious or expeditious, whatever fucking word that is. Same thing with Kobe White. Um, so yeah, I mean, it stinks. This will be a fun narrative to see how it plays out, especially around trading time.